It began not with a love story, but with a question. Why would a man worth $200 million buy a failing café? Some said it was nostalgia. Others whispered of a midlife crisis. But those closest to billionaire Adam Drexler knew one thing for certain: he never spent money without a motive. He didn't crave caffeine. He craved control. The café, an aging gem tucked between a luxury florist and a forgotten bookstore in Manhattan's West Village, was losing money like it was its only talent. It had peeling walls, chipped teacups, and an espresso machine that hissed like a dying cat. Still, Adam signed the papers with a champagne smile and made no public statement. Until she appeared. Her name was Isobel Hart, and she worked in the back kitchen baking croissants and muffins that tasted like soft heartbreak. 24. Curves like temptation. Eyes that told stories her mouth never would. She didn't flirt. She didn't even glance his way. And that drove Adam Drexler absolutely mad. He came to the café every morning under the thin excuse of inspecting operations. Black suit, pocket square, 2 bodyguards who waited in the car. He drank exactly 1 espresso and watched her from the corner of the room. She rarely emerged from the kitchen, but when she did, she carried trays like she owned every soul in the building. He wasn't the only one who noticed. Other employees whispered. "Why's the boss always here? You think he's into the new girl? No way. She's too normal for someone like him." But Adam didn't see normal. He saw mystery. He began to speak to her slowly. Thank you, when she brought out fresh scones. A casual, "These are excellent," said with the weight of a verdict. Isobel responded with a nod. Never a smile. Never anything that could be mistaken for warmth. Until one night, 2 weeks after he purchased the café, he stayed after hours. It rained that evening. Thick, dramatic drops that made everything feel cinematic. The last customer left, and the front door clicked shut. Isobel was in the back washing pans when she turned and found him leaning against the fridge. Watching. "You always stalk your employees?" she asked without turning around. "I only stalk the ones who ignore me," he replied, voice low, deliberate. She dried her hands on a towel and finally faced him. "You bought this place just to play king, didn't you?" He laughed. "No. I bought it because I needed to remember what bad coffee tastes like." She stepped closer, almost close enough to touch. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "You're not here for the coffee, Mr. Drexler." No, he wasn't. And in that moment, looking into her wicked, unreadable eyes, he decided something dangerous. He was going to have her. Not as an employee. Not as a fling. As his. But what he didn't know then, what he couldn't have known, was that Isobel had her own reasons for being there. She wasn't just baking muffins. She was weaving a net. And Adam Drexler, the man who had never been played, was about to become her favorite puppet. Isobel had always told herself. Money isn't evil. It's a tool. And foolish men are the key. She didn't dream of love. She dreamed of freedom, from poverty, from debts, from cruel electric bills. She was born in a small town where the future smelled like mold and cheap liquor. She learned to bake because it was the only silence she could control. But baking wasn't her true talent. Her true talent was reading people. And breaking them. Adam Drexler, in all his charismatic grandeur, was just another man. Rich, confident, and, oh, she saw it right away, lonely. That was the first thing she noticed about him. His eyes, cold and commanding on the surface, were really hollow. Isobel wasn't in love. She was hungry. And the wealth dripping off of him like expensive cologne was her real target. A man who comes to a dying cafe every day just to see a girl in an apron, isn't the owner. He's prey. So she changed tactics. The next morning, when he walked in, she smiled at him. For the first time. Soft. Almost shy. Adam froze, as if he'd just seen the sun. "The cherry strudel came out especially good today," she said. He smiled back. Then left a $500 tip. She knew, the hook was set. Meanwhile, Adam was falling. He didn't realize how thinking about her had become a habit. When she was nearby, the world slowed. When she disappeared into the kitchen, anxiety bloomed in his chest. This isn't just a crush, he told himself. This is obsession. He started making excuses to stay late at the café. Ordered renovations. Set up accidental meetings. One evening, she brought him a slice of chocolate cake. "On the house," she said softly. He watched her walk back into the kitchen and felt something shift in him. A man who owned dozens of companies and properties around the world was now dreaming only of one thing, that this girl would stay close. But while he fantasized about buying her an apartment or flying her to Italy, Isobel sat on a cold kitchen counter, whispering into her phone. "I need to find out where he keeps the money. Who's on his accounts? His lawyer. His sister. Everything." She was looking for the crack in his armor. And the more he opened up, the wider her smile grew, inside. Adam Drexler had never invited anyone into his home. Not business partners. Not models. Not the women he dated. But Isobel Hart wasn't like anyone else. She had become his morning ritual, his nighttime distraction, his slow addiction. So when he asked, one quiet Thursday, if she'd come over for dinner, he held his breath. She didn't answer right away. "I don't usually have dinner with bosses," she said, her fingers trailing the edge of a sugar jar. "It's messy." "I'm not your boss after 8 p.m., he replied. "Just a man hoping you'll say yes." There it was again. That vulnerability. The power he held in the world, the buildings, the wealth, the people who bowed when he entered a room, meant nothing when he looked at her. And she saw it. So she smiled. "Okay. One dinner." The car that picked her up was quiet and sleek. Black leather seats. A driver who said nothing. When she stepped into Adam's penthouse, her breath caught. Floor-to-ceiling windows with the Manhattan skyline bleeding gold through them. Art on the walls that cost more than entire apartments. A kitchen that gleamed like a spaceship. But she didn't gasp. Didn't flatter. She walked in like she belonged there, because one day, she planned to. Adam watched her like a man watching a fire, drawn and afraid at once. Dinner was roasted duck and risotto prepared by a private chef who disappeared as soon as the plates were down. They drank Bordeaux from a bottle older than Isobel herself. And for a while, it was light. Easy. Laughter, wine, music. But she didn't come here just to laugh. She waited until dessert. Until the silence stretched long enough to feel intimate. Then she sighed, softly, the kind of sigh that carried weight. Adam noticed immediately. "What's wrong?" She hesitated, biting her lip. A perfect pause. A curtain of hesitation. "I didn't want to ruin tonight," she said quietly. "But I might have to quit the cafe soon." His body tensed. "Why?" She looked down at her hands, twisting the edge of her napkin. "My brother. Liam. He's sick. The doctors found something in his lungs. They need to operate. It's not covered by insurance." Adam's brow furrowed. "How bad?" Her voice cracked, just a little, like a violin string stretched too tight. "They gave him 3 months. Maybe less." He reached across the table. Took her hand. "I'm so sorry." She nodded, swallowing the fake lump in her throat. Then, as if it cost her everything, she whispered. "They need $65,000. I tried loans. I tried everything. But. Her voice trailed off. Adam didn't hesitate. Done. She blinked. What? I'll take care of it. I wasn't asking. You don't have to. He stood, walked to his study, and returned with a checkbook. You've already given me more than you know. He signed his name. Tore the check. $75,000. Just in case there are extra costs, he said gently. Isobel took the check slowly, as if it burned her fingers. She let a single tear fall. Inside, her heart was stone. But outside, God, she looked like a wounded angel. That night, when she returned home, she poured herself a drink and stared at the check. She placed it on the counter beside a fading Polaroid of herself at 17, working a gas station register in a dusty little town where no one escaped. That's one, she whispered. Just a few more to go. Adam Drexler had never looked lighter. He smiled more. Laughed louder. Even the staff at the café noticed. Have you seen the way he looks at her? One of the baristas whispered. Like she hung the moon. But not everyone was drinking the rose-tinted champagne. Especially his friends. That Friday night, Adam attended a private poker game at the penthouse of Julian Merrick, a tech billionaire and Adam's oldest confidant. Whiskey flowed. Cigar smoke curled like judgment in the air. And between the hands and the heavy pours, came the real topic. So, Julian said with a casual cruelty, how's your cinnamon girl? Adam arched a brow. She's doing fine. A baker, Julian said with a smirk. Perfect. That way she can turn your millions into crumbs. The others laughed. Adam didn't. Come on, Blake Hartwell added, his Rolex glinting under the chandelier. She asks for $65,000 for a sick brother, and you just cut a check? Man, that's not love. That's weakness. Adam set his whiskey down with a thud. You don't know her. Julian leaned in. Neither do you, Adam. You're not seeing her. You're seeing what you want her to be. That's dangerous. You think she's using me? I think, Julian said slowly, that if someone like her was using you, you'd be the last to know. The silence between them weighed more than the gold chips on the table. But Adam didn't argue. He stood and left early, heart caught in the riptide of a single idea. They don't understand her. They don't understand me. But somewhere, deep under his ribs, a new kind of fear began to flicker. The next day at the café, he watched Isobel with fresh eyes. She was radiant. Poised. Unbothered. She teased the baristas, laughed at her own jokes, and sent him that smile, that impossible, beautiful smile. But now, he watched the angles. The precision. The rhythm of her affection. Was it real? You're quiet, she said as she handed him his espresso. Just tired, he lied. She reached out and touched his hand gently. Anything I can do? He looked at her for a moment too long. And then shook his head. Just seeing you helps. She smiled. It was soft. Vulnerable. Perfect. And for now, that was enough. That evening, Isobel walked home, her coat wrapped tight, the city humming around her like an orchestra. She knew. Of course she knew. They're watching me now, she thought. Friends always ruin the fairy tales. She pulled out her phone, checked an encrypted message, then deleted it without blinking. But her mind was elsewhere. Adam was too close. Too trusting. Too easy. He gave me $75,000 with just one tear. Imagine what he'll give me with a kiss. Imagine what I could take with a ring. She looked up at the night sky, and smirked. It was time to go further. Much further. Isobel always said she hated lies. But the truth was, she loved the right lie. And the one she told Adam was near perfect. "I need to go visit my brother," she said with a soft tremble in her voice. "The treatments are getting intense. He's scared. I just want to be there for a few days." Adam's hand wrapped gently around hers. "Take all the time you need, Isobel." She smiled, touched his cheek, kissed him softly, and then walked away with the same quiet grace that made him believe every word she said. She didn't go to her brother. Hell, she didn't even have a brother. Instead, she boarded a plane to Miami with two of her oldest friends, Tammy and Nevaeh, both beautiful, both ruthless, and both well-versed in the art of expensive chaos. They booked the penthouse suite at the most decadent beach hotel. Popped champagne at check-in. Danced like devils at 5 different clubs. Slept past noon, spent like heiresses, and took selfies that never made it online. Because Isobel wasn't just running from Adam's gaze. She was indulging in what he gave her. At one boutique in the design district, she slid her black Amex, his, of course, across the counter without hesitation. The salesgirl blinked at the card. "A Drexler account?" she asked, blinking twice. Isobel smiled like sin. "He spoils me." She walked out with a $12,000 handbag, cream leather, gold accents, handcrafted in Florence. The kind of bag that said, "I don't work. I'm worshipped." Back in Manhattan, Adam sent her texts every evening. "Thinking of you. Hope your brother is holding up. I miss you more than I should." She replied just enough to keep him warm. "He's tired, but stable. I miss you too. Can't wait to come back." Then she'd toss the phone aside and order another cocktail poolside. On the last night, she lay in silk sheets, watching the ceiling fan whirl above her like a slow, hypnotic clock. Nevaeh was passed out in the other bed, lipstick smudged, one heel still on. Tammy was on the balcony, scrolling through a sugar baby forum with clinical disinterest. Isobel was quiet. Because she wasn't just scheming anymore. She was winning. "He thinks I'm fragile. He thinks I need him. He thinks I'm in another city crying by some hospital bed." She turned over, curled into herself, and smiled against the pillow. "Next time, I'll ask for more. Next time, it won't be a bag. It'll be a car. A condo. An investment account in my name." When Isobel returned to the café, her skin glowed like she'd been kissed by the gods, and her hair had that careless shine that only came from high-thread-count hotel pillows and air-conditioned lounges. The staff whispered. Adam didn't. He rushed to her. The moment she stepped in, he pulled her aside, into the back room, his hands cradling her face. "I missed you," he whispered, with an ache that was almost childlike. "Every day you were gone, I kept thinking, what if you never come back?" She smiled gently, wrapped her arms around him. "I'm not going anywhere," she lied again. But she knew the next phase had to begin. The next request. And this one would require a different mask. That evening, as the two of them shared red wine in his apartment, she shifted the mood. "I didn't want to say anything before," she said, eyes down, fingers tracing the stem of her glass, "but something happened while I was gone." Adam sat straighter. "What?" "My brother, the clinic gave him a bill for the medication. Apparently, it's not covered under the previous payment. He called me in a panic." Adam frowned. "Why didn't they tell us earlier?" Isobel shrugged. "Private clinics, you know. They take the money first, then talk. And, the amount isn't small." Adam was already reaching for his checkbook. "How much?" She hesitated. Then said, "Another $90,000. He didn't blink. "Done." But then, just as he was about to sign, he paused. "Would your brother be open to switching clinics? I know someone in the Hamptons. Less expensive, and much better long-term care." Isobel's pulse skipped. No, she said too quickly. He's attached to his doctor. And they said moving him now might complicate things. Adam looked at her for a long moment. Okay. If that's what's best. He signed. Tore the check. Handed it to her. She kissed his cheek, and said, "Thank you, Adam. You're saving his life." Later that night, while she sat alone in his apartment, he had gone out for a late investor dinner, she wandered to his desk. Not to steal. Not this time. She opened a drawer, saw a photo of him with a younger man. His brother, maybe? Both smiling on a boat somewhere on the Amalfi coast. And for the first time in weeks, something caught in her throat. Because as she stared at the picture, her own words from earlier came back. "You're saving his life." A phrase she'd said a dozen times before. But suddenly, she thought, what if someone had said that about her? What if someone had ever fought for her? What if she had never had to learn to lie to survive? For a second, she hated the expensive shoes on her feet. The handbag in the hallway. The man who trusted her without blinking. No, she didn't hate him. She hated that a small part of her was starting to care. The next morning, Adam surprised her. "I want to show you something," he said, grinning. They drove 2 hours upstate. Through winding trees, past mansions, until they arrived at a white brick villa overlooking a lake. "I'm buying this," he said, handing her the keys. "4 weekends. For us." Her breath caught. The house was beautiful. And terrifying. He's going to propose, she thought. He's going to give me everything. And I might not be able to take it. The villa smelled like pine and promise. Isobel walked through each room like it was already hers. But even as she smiled, nodded, gasped at the view. Her mind was spinning. Because Adam wasn't just falling. He was inviting her in. All the way in. That weekend, he introduced her to the people who mattered, his personal assistant Mara, who was sharp as a scalpel, and his lawyer, Gregory Pace, who wore suits like armor and shook Isobel's hand like he was trying to read her fingerprints. Over wine and firelight, Adam said casually, "Gregory helped process that second payment to your brother's clinic. They had some strange documentation." Isobel froze. "Strange how?" she asked, heart hitching. Gregory sipped his drink, eyes unreadable. "Just missing details. Invoices looked generic. No signatures. No medical ID attached to your brother's name. We're checking with the clinic for confirmation, of course. For tax purposes." Adam looked over with concern. "Is everything okay? You said you handled it yourself, right?" She smiled. "Perfectly. Yes. It was probably my mistake. I might have rushed the submission." Gregory nodded politely. But his stare lingered. Too long. That night, while Adam slept beside her in the master bedroom of the villa, Isobel lay awake. Everything she built, it was tilting. The cracks were starting. "I went too far," she thought. "I pushed the lie one payment too deep." She turned her head, watching Adam sleep. His face was peaceful, almost boyish. So trusting. So open. She hated it. No. That wasn't the word. She was terrified of it. Because she was starting to feel something that didn't fit into her plan. Something dangerous. "He's the first man who never tried to take anything from me. And I'm taking everything from him." She rolled over, forced her eyes shut. In the morning, she would fix it. Spin it. Twist the story. Because she couldn't afford to fall now. Not when she was this close to winning. Back in the city, Isobel called a contact, someone she'd used before, someone who forged clean papers and made any lie look holy. "I need new documents. Fast. Medical bills. Real ones. With scans. Signatures. Backdate them. The man on the other end paused. Someone sniffing around? She exhaled sharply. A lawyer. Too clever for his salary. I'll have it in 2 days. Make it 1. And make it perfect. She hung up and stared at herself in the mirror. But what she saw now wasn't the predator. It was the hunted. Meanwhile, Gregory Pace sat in his office late at night, the clinic's email open in front of him. No patient by the name of Liam Hart was ever treated at their facility. He stared at the screen. Then at the photo on his desk, Adam, smiling beside him at some charity event 3 years ago. He picked up the phone. And dialed Adam Drexler's private number. It happened on a Wednesday. Rain tapped the windows of Adam's penthouse like it was knocking on the walls of his heart. He'd ignored Gregory's warning at first. Dismissed it with a wave. She's not like that, he said. But doubt. Doubt doesn't shout. It whispers. And whispers, unchecked, grow louder than thunder. The message wasn't meant for him. It came in at 3:17 a.m., while Isobel was sleeping beside him, her breath slow, her hand curled against his chest like she belonged there. His phone lit up. But it wasn't his. Her screen, face up on the nightstand, buzzed. $75K landed. Good work. Same trick for the next one. From a number saved as, C. Harper, graphic design. Adam stared. Cold flooding his veins. Another buzz. The villa story was risky. Careful. He's getting clingy. That was it. No more illusions. She woke to silence. Adam was sitting across the room, in a chair, fully dressed. Her phone was in his hand. The expression on his face? Not rage. Not pain. Just absolute clarity. Who's C. Harper? He asked calmly. Isobel blinked. What? He stood slowly, walked to her side of the bed, and dropped the phone beside her. The screen still glowed. Go on. Read it. She picked it up. One look, and her soul fell through the floor. Adam, I don't. His voice wasn't raised. That made it worse. She tried again, desperate, voice shaking now. It wasn't what you think. I think, he said slowly, that you saw a lonely man and decided to make him your next paycheck. She stood, heart racing. That's not true. He stepped closer. You lied about your brother. You forged bills. You used my name. You used me. For the first time, the mask cracked, hers. Her lips trembled. I didn't mean to fall in love, she whispered. And for a second, just 1 second, his eyes softened. But it passed. I believed in you, Isobel. I gave you everything. He leaned in, voice low as a blade. Now I'm taking everything back. He didn't scream. He didn't call the police. He did something worse. He got even. Within 24 hours, her accounts were frozen. The boutique bag? Gone. The apartment she secretly rented? Evicted. Her forged papers? Sent straight to the district attorney. The man who loved her turned into the man who outplayed her. And he did it all, without a word. But he wasn't finished. 3 days later, her mother's business in Vermont mysteriously lost its license. Her cousin's scholarship was revoked due to financial inconsistencies. A nonprofit connected to her father was audited so aggressively, it collapsed in a week. Adam Drexler didn't break people. He erased them. The last time she saw him was 6 weeks later. She was working as a waitress in a roadside diner just outside Albany. No makeup. No lies left. Just tired eyes and calloused hands. He came in wearing a dark coat. No bodyguards. No limo. Just him. She froze. He sat at the counter. Ordered coffee. Looked at her once, just once. "I loved you," she said quietly. He sipped his coffee. Stared straight ahead. Then stood. As he walked out, he left a $100 bill on the table. On it, he'd written, "Next time, try the truth." She stood there, hand trembling over the bill. Because for the first time since this all began, it wasn't about the money.